My name is Ami Dayan, and I am the director of Waiting for the Parade at Bas Bleu Theatre.
My name is Bud Coleman, and I'm the choreographer of Waiting for the Parade.
I know this play for over 20 years now, and initially I was living in Israel when I read it for the first time, and I thought of it from an Israeli perspective, and was very taken by it, and translated it to Hebrew, and got a production going. Actually, I moved to Colorado just as the production was coming in place, so a friend of mine directed it, but it was my translation. And I've been wanting to do this play since then, really. The theme of the play, that's a very good question. The theme of the play, it's 5 Canadian women during World War II surviving and doing their best to support each other and support the right cause.
Oh, I would agree. There's, I think, a fascinating line that one of the characters says. One of the women asks another one of the women, so what do you think about that? And she says, you know, I see people, how the choices that they make to get through their day, and I go, oh, that's how she does it. And I think that is a nice encapsulation for the play for me.
That's how she says, that's how she survives. I wonder if it will work for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's true. We're doing the original script.
Yeah.
I think the interpretation of the script is different anytime it's produced, certainly anywhere that it's produced. This play in Israel, in a society that all the men go to mandatory military service, is different than it is in this country, where only a very specific portion of the population gets to do that, which is different, obviously, than Canada at the time, which, you know, it started volunteer, and then they kind of it did become mandatory. So it rings differently every time. This is all original. Yeah. I've never seen the production done. I've only read the script. So this is the first time that I'm seeing the production. I don't know what I'm, you know, changing or not changing, but I can say that some of these set choreography, lighting designs, the production elements were entirely like a vision that I had that was carried forth spectacularly by an amazing design team. Jana Gurevich in particular, in the costume, Jimmy and the lights, and Bud here with the choreography just took this play to a place where I don't think that it's necessarily in the script. It's, you know, it's a world that we've created.
It's kind of funny, my association with the play also started over 20 years ago. When I started at the University of Colorado at Boulder as a teacher, I was assigned to be supervisor of a graduate student who was directing Waiting for the Parade. And so I can tell you that production looked nothing like this production, even though the story is exactly the same. 5 Canadian women working in Canada during World War II. But each team brings their own ideas to that play. And I also fell in love with it 20 years ago, and finally we get to do it.
You choreographed it once,
I
right?
didn't choreograph it.
Oh, okay.
No,
okay.
I was just the supervisor.
Wow.
Yeah.
The vision actually happened right here in this theater, because I was doing a fundraiser for the theater when we were already discussing the production. So I was walking in the space and looking at it, and I loved the building itself, the actual building. And I said, rather than put a set here, you know, let's keep it entirely open. We have 5 women in the play. That's a given. That's the playwright gave us that. They each have their individual spaces. Jana created almost like something that's been broken, that's shattered, that each person lives in a pieces of a shattered universe that's, you know, out there from the war. War is obviously what the play deals with. So that became, you know, making that exposed, it seemed to me like the space is not used on the higher level. Like, we see a lot on the ground, but we don't see anything above, say, 6 feet up. And I thought it would be great if they're ghosts. All of these 5 women have men in their lives that kind of occupy their emotional and their mental states. If those could appear in the space, I don't know if you can catch this, but, you know, behind us are some of these ghosts. And so we see the women sometimes through the ghost, sometimes in relationship with their idols, or their father in that case, husband behind me, 2 sons at my right, and another husband over there. And so just occupying the space with visuals was basically the idea. I had no thought about the net that you're seeing in the background, which is entirely Jana Gurevich's, and she connected it to a white theme, a black and white theme, which you know, you can sense the femininity. and the sensuality in it, and it's just, the space breathes. And excuse me, and as that relates to other elements of the production, like the choreography, it basically talks about bringing the world into here and us into the world and back and forth. And Bud is, you know, this is the second time that I get to work with him as a choreographer. He's so good at kind of utilizing the cast so that what we see is the cast operating the show. We see them move things. We see them, and it's done stylistically and beautifully because of this man's beautiful work.
Yeah, and as Ami said, the show has a lot of different scenes, but we have no stagehands that come on. The women do it all, which is another one of the themes of the play. The women are the ones who are doing the work, even though it's not always seen. And so we early on decided that that would be just the mechanics of the play itself would be run by the women.
There's a train passing right above you, a train with men kind of, you know, waving off, and it's a woman carrying this thing, and you know, it's all cast operated. One of the themes here is collaboration. These women collaborate as best they can, and kind of what puts them together is that they belong to a volunteer group, and that's what, you know, that's the unifying, and we follow them within that group and in their individual lives. Yeah. This play. And there's a repeating theme in the play. There's a war going on. There's repeating. We can't deal with our, you know, private issues. There's a war going on. There's a war going on, and it ticks us off. This play, in many ways, is a celebration of just that collaboration. And to some extent, there is a war going on every evening. The war is the play, presented to an audience, and it's our job to win this war and to tell these women's stories, and we collaborate in that regard. And this production has been spectacular in that regard. I was supposed to direct this play, but I have a show that opened last weekend in Boulder that I'm performing 4 shows a week. So we brought on Wright to co-direct and Bud to choreograph. Luann had to step into one of the roles. One of the actors and one of the roles in the play had to be recast. And Luann had to jump. Is that what you call it, jump?
She jumped.
She jumped. There's a word in here you take on, like you have to.
She jumped.
Into a role, you know, quick. And so Bud, and I was still gone. So Bud took over directorial presence. And the cast themselves as well are taking on much more responsibilities than you might have in a regular production. Including a stage manager that joined us 3 weeks into the production, Trisha Navarre, who returned to support us through it. So it really does feel like a joint collaboration if we just step up to, because the show must go on, the war, you know, there's a war going on.
I'm assuming when most people hear World War II, they think of the men who were on the front. And so I don't think our automatic assumption is, oh, well, what is the story of the women that were left behind? And so that's what this playwright is attempting to tell, is there's a lot of stories about the war, and he wants to provide one aspect that probably a lot of people hadn't thought about before. They weren't in the military, but they were volunteering, and I think the play is pretty clear that some of the women already have a job, but they have decided on their own, okay, I'm going to do my 40 hours a week in my job, but then I'm still going to volunteer for the war effort. So just showing their sacrifice.
Yeah, focus on the unsung hero. We hear about the men's sacrifice and their, you know, their heroism and so on, but it's keeping the societies alive, the fabric of the society alive back home, which is uncelebrated, and we don't know the cost and the sacrifices. And so from that perspective, that would be, I assume, surprising. The other thing is that the enormity of the heart. There's a heart, this is a very heart-centered piece. And the courage comes not from so much ambition, but rather from devotion. Yeah. And that's, I hope, will be a pleasant, and it's also pretty funny and fun. It's not, it's light. These are 5 women that we really enjoy being with. Yeah. By the end of it, we really feel connected to, we care about each one of them, and we come out with 5 new friends.
Yeah. Not only, I think, will the audience hopefully fall in love with the characters in the play, but we have 5 incredible women performers in this play. And I think that is going to be what a great gift to just see 5 people at the top of their game, living, working, laughing, crying together, and taking us on this journey of something that we may not know anything about. What is our connection to Canada? What is our connection to World War II? Maybe nothing, but the human story of these 5 women sharing their fears and dreams, I think that's what it, and there's these women, I completely gush.
It's an incredible cast, and it's an even better ensemble.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful piece of acting, and it's beautiful how the generational thing works here. We have a couple of absolute veterans at the top of their game, and we have newcomers that are just stepping right in there and kind of matching them. It's beautiful.
Yeah.